guys, in this video I'm going to teach you how to tell people that you don't eat fucking breakfast, because a lot of people have followed my channel and they started doing IF, and if you look at any of my IF videos, read those comments, they're blowing my mind. People are like, oh my god, I started doing IF, it's amazing, I've just leaned down so effortlessly, it's so enjoyable, I've never been able to enjoy dieting this much, and it's amazing. One person commented though and said, hey, like, I'm really loving this IF stuff, but how do I tell my friends and family I do it, because they think it's terrible for me? And so that's precisely what I want to address in this video. So the question, how do I tell my friends and family that I do intermittent fasting? Well, it sounds simple enough. Just say, hey, I do intermittent fasting. But the problem with that is that a lot of people still believe that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. They still believe that you have to eat frequently and that going without a meal for a couple hours, few hours is bad for you. And so there's a lot of dogmatic beliefs floating around. But the worst thing you want to do is flat out call them stupid and say, hey, you're wrong, because that will trigger their ego. Eckhart Tolle talks about this. You know, all you're going to do is bring out their ego. So you need to literally sidestep their identity. You need to sidestep their self-image. And so what you do is you say, hey, look, I used to believe that too. You know, I used to think that breakfast was the most important meal of the day. I used to think you had to eat every 2 to 3 hours. And so I totally know what you're coming from. But I always found this to be stressful. I always found this to be like so many rules to follow. I didn't find it as enjoyable. So I actually started to dig into the research, and what I found is there's a bunch of people doing this IF thing where they'll deliberately skip breakfast and eat like 2 or 3 big meals a day late in the day. And the research actually shows that this approach, intermittent fasting, is actually amazing for you. In fact, the idea that we have to eat first thing in the morning and every few hours is actually more sublimated to marketing than anything else. It gets people to buy high-profit food products, cereals, packaged foods like cereal bars, meal replacements, protein shakes. It fuels our consumer-based society. So actually, you don't have to do any of that. In fact, the benefits of intermittent fasting are profound. It actually has life extension benefits. It boosts growth hormone, like increases fat mobilization. It actually helps preserve muscle protein from the boost in growth hormone. As long as you're not fasting for 3 days, just fast until your first meal of the day. Maybe it's at 12 o'clock or 2 o'clock or 4, however long you want to go, you know, somewhere around the lines of 14 to 18 hours. But the really beautiful thing about intermittent fasting is once you learn to fast and it becomes effortless, well, then you can eat huge meals, you know. You can go out and have big-ass Chipotle bowl for lunch, have pizza for at night, a little snack here, an apple, and you're under maintenance, and you're dropping fat doing that. So intermittent fasting is the most amazing hack you can possibly do. The first few days will be really tough, but when you start doing the strategies like, using black coffee to blunt appetite and so forth, it really is so enjoyable, and your body will adapt because we have hormones that regulate appetite, ghrelin and so forth. And so when you start to do it, it's amazing. So that's all. If you really want to tell them it, that's what you say. You don't have to go into all of that. Just hit on those few points. But you don't want to attack their ego. You don't want to make them, like, tell them that they believe a bunch of bullshit. Just say, hey, I used to believe that too. I totally know where you're coming from. But actually, what I found is fasting is actually really good, and no one will admit this. Actually, in fact, it's against society's best interest for people to know this. But it fucking works. And people love to believe in something that is against the mainstream. You know, everyone has a little bit of rebellion in them. Everyone wants to kind of be able to, you know, not go with the flow. I mean, yes, people like to fit into society. At the same time, people also love to, like, kind of do things differently. I think it's cool. If everyone's doing the same thing, it's fun to kind of step out. So when you approach it from that angle, they'll really freaking come around. And you can also say, like, look, like, what time of day do you really want to enjoy a huge meal? Do you want to have a huge, like, forget about what you've been told. Do you want to eat a huge breakfast or a huge dinner? Most people, and you might be different than me, but most people want to eat a huge dinner with their friends at night. They want to feel great. And so what happens when we eat a big deal? Imagine you had a huge turkey dinner. Imagine you had a massive turkey dinner. What happens? We get relaxed and tired and sleepy. Do you want to trigger that effect in the morning? You know, in midday? No, you won't be able to focus as well. You want to trigger that at night. And so actually, we work on 2 different systems. When we're fasted or have less food in our stomach, we trigger the sympathetic nervous system, which keeps us alert, focused, and energetic. Ori Hofmeckler talks about this in the Warrior Diet, and you can see this for yourself. When you eat a huge meal, especially high in carbohydrates, you trigger the parasympathetic nervous system, which makes you sleepy, relaxed, and tired. And so humans are kind of programmed to fast and eat little, sparingly during the day, and eat a lot at night. It just keeps us alert and focused during the day, and relaxed and chilled out and happy at night. It's the most perfect combination. To do the opposite would just be to go against what our body wants. That's why we like to eat big at night. That's why it's so easy to start fasting once you give your body a chance to adapt. I mean, really, that is all you need to say. Just don't really attack their ego, and kind of teach them about it and say, look, if you're open to learning, that I'm happy to do this. And at the end of the day, some people are gonna still say bullshit. I don't believe that. You got to eat breakfast. Where do you get the energy? They might say, where do you get the energy from? And you say, you know what? That's a great question. Where do you get that energy from? Why do we store fat in the first place? Fat is stored energy. Okay. They actually had a guy who went a year without eating because he had so much fat to fuel off of. But you actually, for like really good focus, it's better to tap into your body fat. That's how you burn fat anyways. That's how you burn fat, that's where you get the energy from, your body fat. So if they say, where do you get the energy from? It's like, how do you burn fat? You have to tap into your body's fat stores to burn fat. So that question is kind of like, it's irrelevant. It's like, of course you have the energy. But the thing is with fasting is you're not necessarily eating less. Because if you're on a diet eating 2,000 calories a day, you're eating the same amount of calories, but you're getting all those calories at night, and or not at night, but like later in the day. It's just way more enjoyable. So I don't know. That's really all you have to say, and then you can say, look, if you want to learn more about this, there's actually a really great book called Eat, Stop, Eat by Brad Pilon, which he really goes way more in depth into the research and the effects of intermittent fasting. But ultimately, you can just say, hey, look, I don't feel good eating in the morning. It just makes me sluggish and tired, and I start to get cravings. And so I find that when I skip breakfast, I feel incredible. I'm leaner. I can have an easier time sticking to my diet. I have more energy. My workouts are better. And you can even say, look, I've even been to the doctor, and you can get your health markers checked and be like, look, my health markers are incredible. They've improved. So you can just say that, and no one can argue with that. If you tell someone that you're feeling better, you have more energy, you're looking better, you're dropping fat, who can argue with that? They can. If they're going to argue with that, but then you can't really change their mind. So don't worry about it. But that's really all you have to do, man. Fasting's a beautiful thing. Some people will be open to it. Awesome. Help them out. Teach them the way. Some people will not be open to it, or they won't be ready for it yet. They won't be ready to be open to it. And that's the case. And say, hey, cool. If that works for you, amazing. This is what I like to do. And you, by all means, you do not have to do it. So that's just the reality. That's just the truth. But at the same time, you don't have to go around and project your beliefs onto everyone you meet and see. You can always just not really bring it up. I mean, in fact, you want to make your eating seem effortless. Like, you don't even have to think about it. That's what I like to do. So sometimes when people are like, dude, you're not going to eat in the morning. I'm like, no. I just I hate breakfast. Oh, breakfast is weird. I mean, you can even do this where like literally you kind of take the same forthcoming attitude and you apply it to skipping breakfast. And like, wait, you don't eat breakfast in the morning? Be like, wait, you eat first thing in the morning? That's so weird. Really? Oh my god. Oh, why? Food in the morning? Disgusting. That's so gross. Oh my god. You can play like really dumb and just pretend like you never even knew that people eat 8 in the morning. Like, I've done that sometimes successfully, and people are like, what are you talking about? Of course people eat in the morning. I'm like, what? No. But anyways, this video's gone on too long. Skip breakfast, Breakfast is weird. Who wants to eat first thing in the morning? Drink coffee, eat a huge lunch, eat a big dinner, feel amazing. That's the way to do it, That's the way to do it. And that's all. Anyways, if you're still watching this video, hit the like button right down below. I'm really trying to grow this channel, and so far you guys have been kicking butt for me because we're adding lots of subscribers, and a lot of great comments have been posted. So keep up the great work. Comment below and say, hey, whatever you want to say, something ideally pertaining to this video. And hit the like button, and if you have not already, hit the subscribe button. And if you're too lazy to tell this whole spiel to someone, send them the video and say, look, this is the truth. And if fasting was really bad for you, then I probably would be fat and I would have lost all my muscle. But in fact, I'm in the best shape of my life. I do 2 1-arm chin-ups or 2 1-arm pull-ups per arm, bench 315 for 4 to 5 reps, 175 pounds. So that's all. Bye.